So there's a video of her I saw on TikTok trying to defend this. Perhaps she realized that she's done a huge mistake, claiming that Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was visited by a Satan. I know she didn't delete that video, of course. Or Muhammad himself is Satan, and this could be used against her. So she tried to defend herself. You see, this is the hypocrisy we keep talking about. And this happened to David and his friend, Apos. When David was busy talking about how it's unbelievable that the Prophet ﷺ divided or caused the moon to split into two halves, and saying, the world would have seen it, would have been recorded here and there and all that, but then we don't see any, recorded because you didn't do your discovery. This is recorded in India. We have records that this happened and they saw it in India. You can check Sheikh Uthman Farooq. He did a video on this, and you can check that, and inshallah you would be satisfied with the massive detail and receipts that he has regarding the splitting of the moon. But then that aside, so when David was busy saying all this, Apos asked him, then what do you say regarding the Israel that believe that the sun was made to stop for them to be able to see and fight their enemies? What do you say regarding that? Then David all of a sudden became mute. He became mute and wasn't able to defend the Bible because he has said some things regarding the prophet and the splitting of the moon.
You look up, you see the moon splitting in half. Aren't you going to be like, everyone get up? Look at this. Everyone. Hey, you. Look at that. Look. Hey, you right there. Could you look up, please? That's going to be my verification. They would have been pretty darn freaked out by the moon splitting in half, but no one was. Why? Most obvious explanation is didn't happen.
David believes the sun stopped in the sky to allow Israel to slaughter the enemies, according to the Bible, and no one else saw it. David, what are you going to say about that?
I mean, well, just to point out, there are some different interpretations of that. But even if you go completely literal interpretation of history, you're talking. So yeah, but I mean, I don't consider it. It's.
So now let's see the video of this lady defending what transpired in Genesis chapter 32. And let's also see her lies and hypocrisy.
I want to clear some things up about Jacob and God. God was not oppressing Jacob, nor was he forcing himself upon him.
So now you see, she's one of those that believe that this person is God. And this even makes it worse. Seriously, it makes it worse. Because you can imagine that God trying to prevail over his creation. And he couldn't. Then he applied his divine powers. But still he couldn't. He was begging to be spared because it's already daybreak. Let's continue.
God was also not wrestling with his own creation for recreation, but for redemption. Here the scripture says that they struggled together, meaning that God was matching Jacob's strength. God could have easily overpowered him, but the point here...
What? When it was written there that God did not prevail, according to her, since she said the man is God, did not prevail over Jacob, then he did what he was meant to do, what he thinks would make him prevail over Jacob, but then that still did not work.
It was to show Jacob's resistance and struggle. So you see, the same resistance that Jacob had been giving God, God was giving back to Jacob. Finally, God touches Jacob on the hip, which forces Jacob to admit his need for God.
Jacob never admitted defeat or his need for God. Jacob never admitted that. Jacob only asked for blessing. Didn't see that in the Bible.
And it also simultaneously proves God's sovereignty. It shows Jacob that his strength comes from God, and apart from God, he can do nothing. Finally,
how does that show that Jacob's strength comes from God when Jacob literally defeated your God? How does this show that his strength is coming from God? It doesn't in any way shows that. Like I said, this is the hypocrisy we keep talking about. Why not use the same excuse on Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Why not you say perhaps the angel came and did what he was supposed to do to prepare Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam because he has a bigger task ahead of him, because he has something huge ahead of him, because he was going to be persecuted. So he needed that strength. He needed that, iron fist so he can face his enemy and stand his ground. Why don't you use that same excuse for Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Because at the end of the day, we realize that Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was able to stand and face his enemy despite persecution, despite marginalization. Why don't you say this was supposed to prepare Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam for all this? He was persecuted, his people were killed, he was resisting and still proclaiming the deen of Allah, still inviting people to Islam. Why don't you give him that as an excuse? This angel Gabriel did that to prepare him for what is ahead for the great tax that's to come. So you see, again, there are things she wouldn't let you see because she wouldn't want you to get to the truth. But I'm bringing these things to light, inshallah. She was quoting a hadith initially about Rasulullah running back to Khadija, asking Khadija to cover him because he was terrified, he was scared. This is the first time he was seeing something like this, and he has never in his life seen something like this. So, of course, no human wants to be terrified. I will be terrified because I've never seen something like this, and someone coming and squeezing me, of course it's terrifying. But then, like I said, he is being prepared for the task ahead. So let's continue. There's a hadith, the continuation of the hadith, where the hadith she was quoting, I know she won't let you see this because she wouldn't want you to get to the truth. I'll be reading this hadith in full so you can get the context. I'm heading somewhere, inshallah, and would expose this people, bismillah. Aisha continued the hadith where she said, Khadija then accompanied him to her cousin Waraka bin Nawfal bin Asad bin Abdul Uzza, who during the pre-Islamic period became a Christian and used to write the writing with Hebrew letters, meaning used to write the gospel with Hebrew letters. He would write from the gospel in Hebrew. He would write from the gospel in Hebrew as much as God wished him to write. He was an old man and had lost his eyesight. So now this person is an old man, he's lost his eyesight. Okay, so of course he wouldn't be able to do those things he does before. But then it shows that this man is a very knowledgeable Christian. Let's continue. Khadija said to Waraka, listen to the story of your nephew. Oh, my cousin, Waraka asked, oh, my nephew, what have you seen? God's apostle described, meaning Muhammad, described whatever he had seen. Waraka said, and listen to this. This was the same one who keeps the secrets whom Allah had sent to Moses, in bracket, angel Gabriel, whom Allah has sent to who? To Moses. Remove Allah, put God if you like. Whom God had sent to Moses, angel Gabriel. I wish I were young and could live up to the time when your people would turn you out. How does this man know this, for God's sake? Let's continue. God's apostle asked, will they drive me out? Waraka replied in the affirmative and said, any man who came with something similar to what you have brought was treated with hostility. Like I said, angel Gabriel was preparing this man, Muhammad Sallallahu, for the task ahead. Okay, so he can be strong. And if I should remain alive till the day when you will be turned out, then I would support you. Now let's go back. Why did Waraka said this is the exact thing that happened to Moses? Let's go to Deuteronomy 18:18. Yeah, Deuteronomy 18:18. We'll see that God himself promised Moses that I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren. So now you understand who their brethren is. Their brethren is one of the two sons of Abraham. He had two sons, Isaac and Ishmael. And Moses is from the descendant of Isaac, and Muhammad Sallallahu is from the descendant of Ishmael. Okay, and Allah or God is saying he is going to raise from their brethren, meaning from the brethren of Moses from the other side, a prophet, okay, that is like unto thee, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them, and all that I shall command him. Remember, this person is like Moses. And perhaps Waraka, being a writer, writing the gospel, knew this in the gospel that he has. Perhaps we don't have this today because we know these gospels keep changing from time to time. Remember this man that I said he has how many centuries gospel from different centuries, and he said none of these gospels are the same.
I'm standing behind an incredible assortment of Bibles that span 6 centuries. I have Bibles from the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, and 1900s. And you know what's crazy? No two of these Bibles reads the same.
Okay, let's continue. When Waraka bin Nawfal knew exactly that this is the same person that came to Moses, because Moses share a similarity with Muhammad Sallallahu, and this is been recorded in your own book, in your own scripture, and this is exactly what we see in the life of Muhammad Sallallahu. So watch out for the second part of the series, because there's a lot to answer. This lady had made series of claims. She's made series of claims, series of lies, and inshallah would keep exposing her until we are done with each and every video that I've picked, inshallah, from her channel. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.